to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, welcome along to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, and thanks a lot for taking us along wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. We appreciate you taking Indiana Sports Beat along for the ride here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios North as we are in Chicago for the 49th Big Ten Football Media Days here at the Chicago Hilton. I am joined by Kevin Brockway from CNHI. Kevin, how are you, man?
We're good. We're heading into the second hour here in beautiful Chicago in the ballroom, getting set for Jim Delaney's address, which will be interesting. His final address as Big Ten commissioner.
Yeah, Big Ten commissioner going out. January 1st will be his last day. Then the new comes in. Kevin, he's a TV guy, man. A lot of experience with TV, and I think that's what matters to them because they want to sign those big contracts because that is where all this Big Ten money has been coming from. These nice fat contracts. So, the Big Ten has been putting on a great product on the football field. It's been a great run so far.
And you think about it, Jim Delaney revolutionized the whole conference network. He was the first one to do it with the Big Ten network, and other schools have since followed suit. The ACC, the SEC is the ACC is launching one this year. The SEC, the Pac-12 has a network. It seems like every conference now has a network, and Jim Delaney started that, and with the revenue share that the Big Ten gets from the Big Ten network, it makes it the most lucrative conference in the country, even higher than the SEC in terms of revenue sharing. Yeah,
the Big Ten was first. They are the leader of the pack. Everyone else is chased them in that regard, and it has put the Big Ten in a great position as far as these schools. That's why Maryland left the ACC to join the Big Ten. I mean, of course, the Big Ten wanted them because of that Washington TV market, but Maryland left for money. There's no other way to put it. They weren't getting that in the ACC, and the Big Ten offered it, and it's here.
Yeah, and so, I think that's one of the things when you look back on Jim Delaney's tenure. It's hard to believe it's been 30 years, right? Since 1989.
And how much has it changed in 30 years?
Yeah, exactly. And conference expansion, going from 10 to 14 teams, beginning with Penn State and moving on with Maryland and Rutgers, trying to get some of those East Coast markets. I think his legacy will be a guy that was groundbreaking, but also a guy that, he stood up for his conference. He'd ruffle a few feathers, no question. And, I think one of the big issues now, another, talking point going into is the fact that, the Big Ten was left out of the conference football playoff this past year. And Ohio State had a decent resume, maybe not quite a good enough resume as a conference champion to be one of those four teams. But maybe, there's a groundswell from some of these Big Ten athletic directors to expand the field, to go from 4 to 6 to 8 so that you could have, every conference represented.
And I talked about it a little bit in the last hour, but that brings up again, is there a need for realignment in the Big Ten for that reason? So you don't have the four horsemen over in the Big Ten East beating up on each other in that division without just one of them being able to get to the Big Ten championship game. So does that give them a better chance if they could separate that out and realign those divisions up?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. But if you take a look at last year, who did Ohio State trip up against? Purdue. They tripped up against a West team. Now, you could make the argument that they got so beat up by some of those other East teams that when they faced the West team, maybe they were due for a letdown. But, it's like conference football. It's week after week. You just never know what's going to happen with 18 to 21-year-olds.
Yeah, you look in Indiana. I can't remember the number, but how many top 5 teams Indiana played in a certain period. But it was the only team that matched them was Alabama. And that's because Indiana has to play Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State every year in, year out, because they're in that Big Ten East. That's a tough schedule to have to pull off. And I should have asked about this earlier, but Indiana's got some cool destinations this year. You get to go to Lincoln, Nebraska. That's going to be a different experience for the Hoosiers.
Oh, no question. Yeah, very tradition rich. And we've talked a lot about Nebraska as being maybe that team in the West that can emerge under Scott Frost. But really probably a highly disappointing first season, you'd have to admit, in Lincoln. And
by Nebraska standards.
By Nebraska standards, yeah, exactly. But you've got a guy in Adrian Martinez who's a dynamic player. Maybe Frost can build around that and build the depth that he needs to get Nebraska back to where they want to be.
Well, we'll look forward to it. And it's an opportunity for Indiana because they're catching Nebraska at a time. They're not there yet. So, and Indiana's on the come, so that could be an interesting game. I'm not saying that Indiana's going to go out to Lincoln, Nebraska and come away with a win, but I don't think that that would be the most shocking thing right now, the way this team is heading, the way they're trending. And I think that they're catching Nebraska at a time where that's a possibility at least. We'll know because that's further into the season, and we'll have a much better grasp on this Indiana football team. But they don't get very long before they're going to have to show what their wares are because they're going to open the Big Ten play the third game into the season with Ohio State. That's going to be a tough game.
And a huge game, I think, huge opportunity if you think about it, because A, it's in Bloomington, and B, you have a novice head coach in Ryan Day, that'll be his first conference game as a head coach, and certainly, as we've said before, he's obviously been in the Big Ten as an offensive coordinator, but it's always different when you take a different role in a different position. Maybe this is a chance for Indiana to catch Ohio State at a time when maybe they'd be a little bit vulnerable, and we'll see how they perform their first couple games this season.
And, of course, before we get to that, Indiana will kick off the season on August 31st. Man, it's not that far away. What are we, 5 weeks away, 6 weeks away from kickoff? It's crazy. That Lucas Oil Stadium on the 31st against Ball State. Like I said, the biggest question for Tom Allen is who's going to be that starting quarterback. That's got to be the toughest decision he's probably made to date as a head coach in Indiana, that impending decision, because that's going to make or break what Indiana's able to do. And you've got Peyton Ramsey, who's got 2 years of experience, but it's not being able to quite get the team down the field with as many points as they needed to. So either he's gotten a lot better at that or one of these other guys is going to step up there. But that's a decision that Coach Tom Allen will have to make, and we'll hear from him here in the next segment. But it's exciting times to have that kind of choice to be able to make. He wasn't able to make that before. I mean, he had two guys to go between, but there really wasn't for him, there wasn't a consideration last year. He didn't think Penix was quite ready, and he went with Michael or with Peyton Ramsey. But this year, that's going to be a tough decision. He's got three guys that legitimately can win that job. Yeah.
And, maybe that's a good dilemma to have, in the fact that at least you have three guys that you think are capable. And I think here's the interesting question. Do you extend the quarterback competition into Ball State and Eastern Illinois? Do you give them, maybe each a half or each a quarter to see what they do in live game situations as opposed to practice? Or do you make that decision right away and give your starter the majority of the reps so that he's fully prepared for the Big Ten schedule? That's an interesting decision. If no one separates themselves, do you give everyone a chance?
Well, it's like 5-6 years ago, Indiana had this problem. They had a very young Nate Sudfeld, who's now with the Philadelphia Eagles. They had a Trey Roberson. I think it's Cam Coffin. I can't remember his name, but they had three talented quarterbacks that were very different. Nate Sudfeld, obviously, a prototypical pocket quarterback. The other guys were athletic, and so he ended up eventually going with Sudfeld, who would be, I guess, a good decision because he was a quarterback for 4 years. But those guys transferred out. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But it's always a good problem to have, at least for a season. But it could be the difference between Indiana being 5-7 and then being 8-4, because we've talked about this, and you mentioned the multiple games where they a new offensive coordinator, what he does is instantly infuse 10 to 15 points a game into programs. So that's a good look for Indiana looking forward.
Yeah. And I'm looking at last year's schedule. Penn State 33-28, Minnesota 38-31, Purdue 28-21. Those are the three games that if you win two of those three, you win one of those three, you're going to a bowl. You win two of those three, you might be going to an even better bowl. All three of those games, you could be going to a close to a New Year's Day bowl.
And so you would think that with all this talent and all these positives that it's just a lay down. But unfortunately, that's not the case because these other teams are getting better as well. So Indiana's got to continue to raise its play.
No question. I mean, I think that's kind of the key, and I think that's where the depth comes in too, and the fact that Tom Allen is bringing in another top 40 national recruiting class to give you that kind of depth in practice, and maybe some of those freshmen can kind of fill those roles. Tom Allen's talked a lot about the offensive and defensive lines and depth, and particularly, I think that's his one concern is the defensive line. How deep is it going to be? Can it withstand injuries? Yeah, can you? Because today's coaches, they like to rotate, 4, 5, 6 guys out there. They're such big guys, and to get them playing at max effort, you need to develop that kind of rotation. I think that's what Tom Allen is, trying to do when he talked about his top 25 defense without depth, and now he's kind of establishing that in the front 7 and particularly in the front 4.
Jim Coyle with you here on Indiana Sports Beat, joined by Kevin Brockway from CNHI. We are at the 49th Big Ten Football Media Days. Kevin, you came up here from Florida covering the Florida Gators, so you spent a lot of time around big-time programs. And I know you haven't been around Indiana's program a lot yet, but Urban Meyer, when he was running that program, or even later, a lot of organization goes into those big-time programs.
No question. And I think, too, it's, I mean, obviously the talent in Florida is what it is, and Tom Allen knows that. He's getting those players. But it's very regimented, and I think the key with those programs, with those big time programs that you're dealing with down in the SEC, is just it's building that competition in practice. I think is the big thing. And Tom Allen he has that right now in the running back room, like as he's discussed. Stevie Scott, he's got guys that are going to push him, that are going to be able to, and I think you need to develop that throughout your whole football program. And when you have that, and you have guys that kind of step in and reload, you've only got 85 scholarships, but when you have that depth and you have the quality of players where 1 to 85 is strong, then you've got that big time program. You've got that, I went to school at the University of Miami too, and they had that. Back in the 90s. And, you take a look at it, the teams in the early 2000s that I covered in Naples, that 2001 team where you had Willis McGahee backing up Clinton Portis, backing up Frank Gore. I mean, that's, as good as it gets, right? And that's the goal, I think, that every, big-time, football program wants to develop, where you have a second and a third guy that's as good as your first guy.
Talking with Kevin Brockway. This is Jim Coyle. We're here at the 49th Big Ten Football Media Days in Chicago. The Golf Club at Eagle Point Studio has been moved north. We've got a lot more coming up. Joining us next on the program when we come back, we're going to talk to Indiana head football coach Tom Allen. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We're back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make it tea time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, you want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
And keep on wishing.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We've moved over in Chicago at the Chicago Hilton for the 49th Big Ten Football Media Days, and I couldn't be any more honored to be joined now by Indiana's head football coach, Tom Allen. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Excited to be here. Looking forward to a great day.
You're becoming old hat at this now, man. This is your third season.
I know.
How has it changed from the first time you came here? What was that first time like?
Well, anytime you do something for the first time, man, my heart was racing. I was so nervous and didn't know what to expect. I looked at the schedule and it just looked jam-packed, and it is. But I was nervous. I really was. And I wanted to enjoy it still. But last year was more comfortable, and even this year you just feel more and more relaxed, a little more. You kind of know what to expect and know what's next. But, it's turned into be a really fun experience. I enjoy it.
I remember one press conference after a game, a particularly tough loss, and somebody was talking about the calls, and you talked about you have to earn those calls.
Yeah.
Well, you've earned your place here, definitely. And what the job you've been doing recruiting to me is mind-boggling, because first of all, it's never been done at Indiana. To the level you're doing it, and to be doing it off of 5 and 7 seasons, you're turning this program around. How are you able to do that? It's just amazing.
Well, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of work from our whole staff, and we got a lot of people that play a huge role in that. But it's building long-term relationships with these families. It's getting them to see the vision for what you're building. That's what it comes down to. Is because can they buy into the future? and realizing that it takes time to build it the right way. And there's no quick fixes in the Big Ten because you're playing against such a high quality opponent every single week that we don't go out and really recruit a lot of junior colleges and get a bunch of transfers. I mean, we get guys out of high school and develop them, and that takes time. And so that's why the recruiting piece, we were selling opportunity to come and compete to play, and the vision for breaking through and challenging guys that have the courage and confidence to want to come do that, and you get a chance to get world-class education, and that helps us a lot because there's a lot of programs that IU has that are very unique and special, and they have a chance to come here and play at the highest level of college football, and we go across the country. We're not afraid to go wherever it takes to get a guy that wants to be here. We'll start in our home state and work our way out, but I want guys that want to be here. So we're assembling a group of guys with that mindset and with an edge about them and a great work ethic and a great toughness, and so we're just excited about where we are.
Going by Coach Tom Alvin, you had a football head coach. You made some great inroads in Florida. You had ties down there from your previous coaching and whatnot, so that was a little easier, I guess, to get accomplished. But now you've moved north. You're pulling guys out of Detroit and hotbeds for Michigan and Michigan State. That's never been done by an Indiana football team.
Well, like I said, we'll go wherever we got to go. I just want to find guys that have the passion to be here, that can make plays and care about school and love to work and love to compete. And Coach Hart's got some strong ties up in that part of the country, and he did a great job building relationships. And we've tried to match up our guys' strengths with where they know people. It's about relationships. Even in recruiting, it's a huge part of the coach to recruiter relationship. I'm talking about the coach being the high school coach and those individuals trusting us and feeling like that we're creating an environment that they want to send their players to. And so I think that's what you're seeing up there. And then we're going out east and getting some guys from there and recruiting more guys from that area right now. And just like I said, it really, we have a certain area we target, but we find a guy that fits with us. We don't really care where he's from.
And it seems like the players are becoming some of your best recruiters.
They are. But that's where it's really when it becomes powerful because, coach can say it. He's supposed to say it, and that's kind of something that, you expect. But then when it's coming from the players, it's coming from their parents, and it's coming from, guys that I had a chance to, be with the alumni last night, a bunch of former players, and we now have some guys that I've coached that are coming to these now, and they're our biggest proponents, guys that are in the program or played in the program, and they truly believe in what we're building, the way we're building it. And so those guys are not bashful on social media to get out there, and we tell them, we can't direct them to recruit these guys, but they know that they're only as good as the guys around them. So they're doing a great job recruiting their future teammates.
And I can say for a fact that to a man, these guys are all on the same page. And that's another thing to get 85, 100, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids on the same page. That's tough, but these guys they're locked in.
I believe they are. And our coaching staff would attest to that once we get them here and the strength staff that's worked with them, especially the new guys and just the single-mindedness that they have to them and the work ethic that they bring, the focus that they bring. And they're here, they're on a mission, and our guys have bought into what we're building here and what we're teaching and preaching and what we expect. And the bottom line is that that's the key. I got to believe, and I've said it from the beginning. If you don't believe, then you just need to don't come here. You need to leave, So that's what we're trying to assemble as a group of a whole football team that believes and a coaching staff that believes, and that's what it takes to win this conference.
I've been putting some pressure on you on the show because I'm looking at what's coming and I'm like, man, it could be some exciting things this year. The offense. Got a great quarterbacks room. It's great competition. Running backs room, the receivers, and a new offensive coordinator who has done nothing but grow programs. On the offensive side, it's looking very exciting.
Well, I agree. And as you kind of go through and look at our roster, we've not had 3 quarterbacks since I've been here that you feel like are 3 capable guys to lead your team, and you got, like you said, a running backs room that's got a lot of competition, and that's great. Iron sharpens iron. I believe in that, and Stevie Scott's a great player, but he's got to be on his game, and he knows it. Receivers got a lot of guys there that can make plays, and with D Hale and Nick Westbrook, the 2 lone seniors, those guys are really the leaders of the group. But has a lot of different guys that want the ball and can do something with it when they get it. We got some tight ends I really like, and the O-line is anchored by 3 seniors. That really Coy and Simon and Hunter, that just big, strong guys that care a whole lot about this program. So, I really like what Kalen's doing. Obviously it'll be, revealed once we start playing games, but I just love the history of what he's done, the places he's been. He's followed a very similar path that I did, and known him for a long time. He's won everywhere he's been. He's been in some tough places where he's had to be creative and he had to do some things to create those yards and points and opportunities for your offense. And I like that because I think that's kind of what we have to be able to do here, And so bottom line is he has a long track record of winning, and he's a high character guy. He's a great husband and father, and like a really, really quality person. So he fits with us, and I'm excited to see him get to work.
Coach, you mentioned Stevie Scott, some preseason accolades this week. How do you think he'll handle that?
I believe that the kind of character that he has and the way he's worked this summer, the way he's worked this offseason, because he came to us last year, and he got here late because he had a late graduation from high school out east where he's from. And so he wasn't with us very long, so had like about 1 month with us in the summer, and then he ends up beating our starting tailback pretty quickly. So, really never had a chance to he had injury his senior year of high school, so he really didn't get to play a lot of senior year. So I just think this whole offseason has really allowed him to get bigger and stronger and more confident in what he's doing. So, but I just think the room and the chemistry in the room, the guys have great, camaraderie, and even though they're competing for the same spots, they know we have one common goal, and that's to break through on game day. So I think that he it's a great coach. It's going to keep him grounded, and he's humble and hungry, and the guys around him will keep him sharp.
Well, with him and Sampson and Ronnie Walker and Winters, I mean, you really have 4 guys that you can kind of share the load a little bit.
Yeah, don't forget about Cole Guest.
Yeah,
and Cole's a guy that has been plagued with injuries, but has a burst that's different than the rest of those guys. And so I'm really excited. I think, and all the guys that you mentioned, have opportunities to compete and play. So, yeah, it's a group that's got some depth. I'm telling you, every year I've been in this conference, you need a bunch of running backs, and it's a physical league, and they're going to get hit hard, and they're going to deliver a lot of big hits, but we're going to need all of them.
And you talk about Cole Guest, not only does he bring a different dynamic to that backfield, but he's the oldest guy in the room. That's a very young group you got in there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no seniors, and he's the oldest one. And I know that he brings a lot of experience and just a maturity to his work ethic. He's an extremely focused young man, and he works as hard as anybody on our football team, and just so driven. And so I just want it so bad for him because I know how hard he worked last year, and then he had the injury, but he's back, so it's just, and he does bring a different skill set to that group. He's not quite as big as some of them, but very, very fast and can catch the ball really well out of the backfield. And we're going to utilize that part of our game as well, probably more so than we have in the past. And so I'm excited about that group of guys for sure.
Before Tom Allen arrived in Indiana, you couldn't say Indiana defense in the same sentence, hardly. And man, oh man, did you make a change there? You've stepped back a little bit as far as the coordinator duties, but your tradition continues on. What are you expecting on that side of the ball this year?
Well, I expect us to be better. We played a lot of freshmen last year. 10 that were in the rotation. We played even additional ones that played within the 4-game rule for still redshirting. So a lot of youth last year, and it was tough at times because when you're playing freshmen in the Big Ten, that's not ideal, especially that many, but those guys all got to play, so to me, it's a very deep group. I mean, we got competition at every position. We've never had it like this since I've been here. And I just know that, year one as head coach, our defense was top 25. But we had no depth. It was really a problem. And I was concerned about it going in, and it proved to be a real issue. And those guys were good players. They just got tired, And so and then last year we had depth, but it was really young. And so now that depth is a year older, and so that freshman class last year, which now they're, some redshirt freshmen and true sophomores or redshirt sophomores, that makes up a big chunk of our defense. And we just want to keep guys rolling in, where we're back to saying where I believe we need to have the goal of being a top 25 defense. And that's my expectation for that group. And Coach Womack has that same vision. And it's going to be I'm going to be very involved. I'm not going to call the defense, but I'll be very strongly involved in the game plan. And then the passion with which we play with will not change. Matter of fact, I thought we even played with even more intensity in the spring and just became another group of guys that are just a year older, year more confident, in the system and playing with a different speed. And we've recruited speed, and that speed's getting older, and that's not going to change. We're going to keep guys that can run and hit and love to play the game, So to me, it's just about, 60 minutes of sick 'em football on defense. And just keep rolling guys in that keep them fresh. We're going to play a whole bunch of guys, and now those guys are a lot more experienced.
Health-wise, how are you going into camp? And is Mike Penix going to be cleared for full contact, you think, by?
He'll be cleared for full contact, and he won't be getting hit much. None of the quarterbacks will during fall camp, but he'll be cleared, and he's had a really good summer, as all those guys have. And from an injury perspective, Jacoby Hewitt was injured over the summer, and that was put out, but other than that, we expect everybody to be full bore, and you'll always have a few little soft tissue things sometimes coming out of summer, but nothing long term that we expect. And so the expectation is that our guys come to fall camp and which will be here in 2 weeks, and ready to go. So we're excited to get everybody back, and injuries are part of the game, so we'll see what happens in the future. But right now we're pretty good.
You've talked about kind of pushing this team though in August and really making it a hard camp. Have you kind of formulated that, and how important is that going to be to kind of get ready for the season?
One thing that's unique about this camp is it's actually a week longer than since I've been here. We've always had 2 weeks of true camp, and then school starts. Well, this year we have actually 3 because school starts a week later, which is just the way the calendar came. So that gives us 1 extra week of preparation. So really excited about that. I think it's really good for our team because we are still very young, but it's going to be a tough camp, for sure. And don't know what the weather's going to be like. Don't really care. We'll just adjust to it. But bottom line is that it's going to be physical, and we're going to practice hard. We only do 1 a day now. That's where everybody's in the same boat with that. And we call them walkthroughs the first 5 days and jog throughs, and from practice 6 on in the evenings. But there's never 2 full practices 1 day. But there's no question it's still camp, and it's a grind mentally and physically, and we'll have a lot of meetings, and we'll make sure we're mentally where we need to be, mentally and physically tough is what you got to have in this conference.
You've got 3 quarterbacks. We all know about 3 good ones going into the camp. What do they have to show you to get that number 1 job?
Yeah, and that's it's going to be a challenging decision, because of the talent that those guys have. And so, at the end of the day, and you try to make it as simple as possible, and that is who can move the team down the field. Who do the players believe in? They have to. That quarterback has to win the team. They really do. And I'm talking about defense, offense, special teams. You have to feel like, man, when that guy steps on the field, if there's time left on that clock and we got the ball, we got a chance to go win. And that, to me, what I'm looking for, so you're going to be looking at, we'll chart everything. We'll be very detailed in completion percentage, and as we do, 2-minute drills during practice, and live goes in practice, and moving the ball down the field during practice, and who's able to do that the most effectively, and who's the most accurate getting the ball to the receivers, and creating the explosive plays that we know we need to create, and at the end of the day, scoring points. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, our offense last year did a lot of good things. We ran the ball really well, and we threw the ball accurately for the most part, but didn't create enough explosive plays and didn't create enough points, and so that to me was the key things. And those don't mean just long bomb passes, but the explosive plays have to come in chunks, because it's hard to just, systematically move the ball against these defenses in the Big Ten every game. And so creating those opportunities, that's why those, that stat is such a big deal. The turnover ratio, which is the offense and defense component put together, and the explosive play ratio, those 2 components, when those 2 come together and you win both of those, you're going to win 90% of your games. So that's what we're looking for, is the guy that can do that.
How close to kickoff of that August 31st game will you go before that decision is made?
You really don't know, and I'm probably not going to give it an exact date, but you obviously have to know the week before. I mean, you want to be able to go that last week where you say, hey, this is the guy, he's taking all the reps, So hopefully after a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks in the fall camp, you're going to make a decision, I would imagine. And so, but in all fairness to everybody involved, but it'll be an interesting battle. I love that, but and I'll say this again, Peyton Ramsey's the returning starter. He's the guy they got to beat out, and so he's earned that, and I have a ton of respect for him.
And you've done a great job, obviously, building these relationships. But when you have to make that decision, the biggest selling job you may have to do is to the other 2 guys that don't do that job.
That's true, and that's probably the thing you look forward to the least about fall camp, So, but that's part of being I got a little sign on my desk that says the buck stops here, and that's the bottom line. I got to make those tough decisions and own that, and I will, and I'll sit down with those guys. And that's probably the hardest. The kid that gets the job, he's going to be all fired up, and then the other 2, you got to just explain and see the big picture, and the reality is it's a long season, and shoot, you just never know. I mean, anything can happen, and the other guys got to be ready to go. And I'll say it all. We're going to need them all. I mean, I just done this too long to know that there's too many things can happen, and they all got to be prepared. And there's going to be coming time and place. Whatever their role happens to be, they need to be ready to step up and play when called upon.
All the tough things that happen to be a head coach. When you became a head coach, how long was it until it really dawned on you that I head coach in the Big Ten? I'm here.
Well, it happened so fast that it really was kind of a blur in the beginning. That happened, and we're out recruiting. We're getting ready for a bowl game, go coach the bowl game, and go back and recruit, sign class. It was probably when I stepped here, that first Big Ten Media Day, and we sat there, and there was all 14 head coaches taking a picture together. I was like, holy cow, I'm one of these 14, and so because you kind of have a chance to just step back and be like, wow, I'm really blessed. So, yeah, it was, back because of the way that it happened, it was probably took a while to figure it all out and really realize that, but right now I feel like, hey, let's go, ready.
Who's the coaches that you've looked up to, that you've learned from, that you've taken a lot of what you do from?
Sure. I would say there's two that kind of stick out. Mark D'Antonio is one that it's kind of really been a great, friend and mentor in a lot of ways. We don't sit down and have lengthy conversations, but I always respected the way he did things, in his program, and how they're being a defensive guy too, and being a defensive head coach, and the way their defense always played consistently year after year, and the program that they built, just the consistency, the toughness, and just kind of, we want to have a similar program, and he's always kind of pulled me aside at times and encouraged me, and has been a guy that I really respect and appreciate. And then, Pat Fitzgerald's another one, guy, another kind of similar defensive guy, played linebacker, kind of built like I am in regards to mindset and how we want to do things. And just to be at a place that, has not had long-term success, has high academics, and to see, it's his home too. There's a lot of similarities, and he's been there a long time, and he's built it systematically. So and he and I talk, and I'll ask him questions and different things. I mean, we're obviously in different divisions, so we don't play each other every year, but I just really respect what he's done there and the way he's done it, and how long it's taken him, but he's been, a kind of a example of grit, which is our one word for 2019. So those two guys stick out to me.
Coach, we're looking forward to the season. I can't wait to get started. August 31st, Ball State, Lucas Oil Stadium. It's a big opening.
Yes.
You guys always do things big, it seems like. Looking forward to that. But cannot thank you enough for joining us today.
Appreciate it,
Wish
Jim.
you the
Thank
best
you
of
so
luck,
much.
man. Best
Appreciate
luck with the season. Thank you.
Coach, thank you.
We'll be back and forth on the Indiana Sports Beat right after this.
All right.
Then the supreme best do not obey, no must be forsake, but you can pass the test. Just move on.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs, Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hi, this is AJ Moye, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Welcome back to the Golf Company Eagle Point Studios North as we are in Chicago for the 49th Big Ten Football Media Days. Jim Coyle with you here, Indiana Sports Beat. Thanks a lot for taking us along. Joined by Kevin Brockway from CNHI, and now joined by Elton Hayes from CNHI Penn State. Elton, my man, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me this morning.
Great. How's the media days been? It's early. It's the first day. Not a lot going on, but how's your first media days been?
It's going well, man. It's a flurry of activity here in downtown Chicago. Woke up this morning to buckets of rain pouring down, but I don't think that'll dampen the spirits. We're here, and I guess you could call this the unofficial official start of the Big Ten football season.
Ready to go. We're ready to get it going. You get to cover the Penn State Nittany Lions, your first season covering them, I understand.
My 11th day on the job. Just kind of getting entrenched in the program. I started with the Lift for Life last Friday. Penn State raised $53,000. It's a nice benefit weight training competition that the school does to raise awareness for rare diseases. So felt good to jump in there and get my feet wet, and I'm ready for the start of the season.
We were fortunate to have Indiana head football coach Tom Allen on with us a little bit ago, and Indiana plays in that vaunted Big Ten East, man. I think it's the toughest division in all of football. Penn State is one of those four horsemen that anchors the Big Ten East. What kind of a season are you expecting from the Nittany Lions? They've lost a lot. They lose Trace McSorley, his big lose.
Well, I mean, you said it right there. I think for the first time since 2016, Penn State will trot out a new quarterback. Right now, the presumed starter, Sean Clifford, a redshirt sophomore, actually had the longest play in Penn State pass history last year, 95-yard touchdown pass against Kent State. People are wondering if he's as mobile as Clifford. I mean, as McSorley, that's yet to be seen. But he has a big arm, and I know a lot of people in Happy Valley are excited about his prospects this season.
Losing Saquon Barkley, a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever it was, actually, but that was a big loss. But losing your quarterback, and a quarterback that has been anchoring your offense, that's tough to replace.
It is. And the thing about McSorley is he was so durable. Tommy Stevens, who was the backup last year, this offseason transfer to Mississippi State, he had the, most experience coming into this season. But with losing him, really hits Penn State depth-wise because, like I said, with having someone as durable as McSorley, you didn't really get much chance to get the other guys in there, get them rotated, and get some in-game experience.
Elton, it's interesting. You come to the job with CNHI Penn State, and your previous background, you covered Last Chance U.
Buddy Stevens and the East Mississippi Community College Lions.
Tell us a little bit about that experience and what it was like to cover a team that really kind of created a national spotlight for junior college level by being a part of that Netflix series.
It really did. It started with that GQ article a few years back. And I guess Greg Whitley, the producer of the show, read that article and was kind of infatuated by it. So he went down to Scuba, which is in the middle of nowhere. There's literally a railroad track that runs through downtown and not much to do. But he saw that there was this program down there that was just churning out, top athletes and, doing so by getting a lot of guys who really, had to kind of start over at the junior college level. But my first year down there was 2016. And I think within a few weeks of me being down there is when season 1 came out. So, I binge watched the show, of course, on a Friday night. Saturday, I drove over to Scuba. It's good stuff, man. It is good stuff. But, Buddy's a really good guy. I know a lot of people were a little off-put by his colorful language on camera, but he's a genuine guy. He cares about that program. The players love him. And it was really cool to be down there during that time.
Well, if anybody was put off by him, then I don't know what the heck they thought about Jason Brown when they moved the show out west.
He made Buddy look like a saint.
Oh, I'm telling you. And I got to be honest with you, I hated that they moved it. I
did too.
I love the show. I'll be honest with you. From the first episode, I was hooked like a big mouth bass. I'm in. And those couple seasons were great. And then they moved it, and I'm like, it wasn't the same.
It wasn't. And I'm not saying this because I'm biased, but there was something special they had down in Scuba. And when you have a formula like that, kind of stick to it. I tried making it through the third season, the first one that they did over in Kansas, and it just didn't have the same appeal.
No, it definitely. There was a couple of Indiana guys that unfortunately that had made it down there. But it's an opportunity for guys who may have, for whatever reason, they've run the course of the school that they're at. But it is Last Chance U.
It is.
It's an opportunity for those guys to redeem themselves and move on someplace.
Yeah. No, it was really fun, and I'm excited to see what they do this year. I saw yesterday they were pegged as the preseason number 1, to no surprise, after winning the championship last year. So I'll be watching from afar in a Happy Valley.
I wonder if Netflix will ever decide to go back there.
That's an interesting question. I know people had talked about it when I was down there. They kicked the idea around, but it just never kind of came to fruition. But they do very well if they went back.
Who are some of the big-time players that you were able to see come through there that went on to do great things?
DeAndre Jordan, the former Florida State quarterback who went to Scuba. Now he's, I believe, at FAU. John Franklin III was there. Isaiah Wright, who, along with Cameron Patrick, ran afoul of the law, but I believe those charges were dropped or they plea bargained. Right. Dakota Allen was there when I was there, Ronald Ollie. So a lot of the big names. It was a good time to be covering East Mississippi football.
If you haven't seen it, man, it's on Netflix. It's a great show, especially the first 2 seasons. We're talking with Elton Hayes from CNHI Penn State, also joined by Kevin Brockway from CNHI. He's a IU's beat writer, of course. We're here at the 49th Big Ten Football Media Day in Chicago. We've moved the Golf Point of Eagle Point Studios north for the next 2 days. Tomorrow we'll have a lot of guys on. Things are just now getting started, Elton. There's not people are just now kind of breaking loose. I've got this hour time change. We lose an hour here, and it really messed with it because they're all late. I'm like, let's go, guys. And so I'm like, hey, I need y'all now. Get out of bed. So tomorrow will be a lot more fun for us. But everything will start happening as soon as we get off the air, of course.
This is the calm before the storm.
Exactly. What are you looking forward to in your first Big Ten media days?
Kind of just getting out there and meeting the coaches, talking to some of the players, and just kind of getting my feet wet. There's a lot going on, and I feel the best way to learn to do something is jump in feet first. So I will definitely have the opportunity to do so the next couple of days.
Both you and Kevin are coming into a new situation. Kevin also just coming to IU recently. as the beat writer for CNHI. He had covered Florida previously. So both you guys coming with a great football background, especially, which is awesome. But Big Ten Conference is a big-time conference. What's some of the things that both of you, Kevin, is the hardest to adjust to? Because you're used to the SEC, your contacts SEC, and all that. Now you've got to make a complete 180 and change to the Big Ten. How difficult has that been?
Yeah, and I think it's just kind of learning the personnel, learning the players, learning the people, the coaches, learning, how to deal with, maybe different personalities from the Midwest to the Southeast. It's, different a little bit along the way. But I'm enjoying it. I mean, I really am. It's still big-time college football. It's such a tradition-rich conference. I mean, who grew up watching, Michigan, Ohio State football games in the fall? And I think it's going to be really a lot of fun, especially when the season gets going and you have those, crisp kind of October and November afternoons with some good hard-hitting football. Maybe not the speed of the SEC, but a little more physicality.
Whatever. I'm trying to help him, Melton. Ask him what I tell him almost every day. Nobody cares about the SEC. Every day, I'm telling you, he'll tell me something or tweet something, and I'll look at him and I'm like, dude, nobody cares about the SEC. But what is this misnomer with the Big? You don't think the Big Ten has speed? You're out of your mind.
Not the same level.
Well, now there's a lot more Florida guys in the SEC because first of all they have SEC schools, but also they don't have to go far to recruit.
Yeah,
so it does amaze me that Florida can produce not the quality of talent, the amount of talent. It's like they have an endless faucet where football players are they
just turn them out, man,
pulling out of there. And I'm like, my gosh.
Well, you remember my story about Tywin Allen. I mean, they start when they're 4 years old. I mean, it's like ingrained. It's kind of like basketball in Indiana. It's the same thing. It's just what they kind of do from a young age. And for a lot of kids in some of the inner city neighborhoods in Miami, it's a way out as well.
It doesn't hurt when you've got nice weather all year round also.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, that helps you. You'll see with all sports, baseball, the Sunbelt states. But, but when I was growing up in football, I was thinking of Ohio, of Texas, those kind of football, more mandated states. But Florida is just, it's crazy. For the population, I mean, Texas has got to be twice the size of Florida, but my gosh, Florida just puts out, and it's not just talent. They put out the specialty guys.
Oh, yeah,
the
your skill positions,
the receivers, the running backs. The guys just really get it done, and it's amazing to me how much. There's not a team that doesn't have 10 guys from Florida on it.
Are you giving an SC school props right now?
No, maybe he's given this because there's some ACC teams. I think what Elton is going to learn too is that Central and Western Pennsylvania too has a very strong tradition for football and quarterbacks, particularly in Western Pennsylvania. Dan Marino, Joe Namath, so Jim Kelly, so many great quarterbacks out of the Pittsburgh area.
It wasn't from the 49ers, Joe Montana,
Western Pennsylvania. Yeah, all Western Pennsylvania kids.
It's nuts. Yeah. It's nuts how an area can produce such greatness in a specified position.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No question. California, too, obviously another great college football state as well. Yeah, there are a few of them throughout the country.
People in that state.
Yeah.
Not quite the same, but looking forward to it, man. What are you looking forward to, Kevin, over the next 2 days here, media days?
I am looking forward to, just hearing all the coaches talk about maybe some of the different issues as well, like, college football playoff expansion. I'm curious about that, whether they're for it or against it, and dealing with, maybe getting back to that, big time national stage.
Certainly find out. Penn State. You get to follow them this year. Indiana plays Penn State, of course. That's a road game for Indiana. And I'm going to shock you right now. I think that is a road game that Indiana can win this year.
You mentioned that yesterday.
I would have and I've never said that ever because it's not. I've never felt that way before. And of course, until I actually get to see this team, I'm basing it off of prognostications. But I just think this team is going to surprise people. But we'll find out because going into any place and winning is tough. But when you go into the Lions' Den, which is exactly what the Happy Valley is, I mean, the Big Ten's got 3 schools that has 100,000 seat stadiums.
Michigan,
I've never been
Penn State,
to Happy Valley, but I know it is nothing but like a whitewash. Just if they have the whiteout or the blackout, whatever. But when they do, it is like if it's a blackout, it's an eclipse. And if it's a whiteout, it's just like a solar eclipse. It's crazy.
It's just, like I said, that's one thing I'm looking forward to also, just kind of taking in that atmosphere. Because as Kevin said, growing up, Penn State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, the Rose Bowl. So to be able to actually be there, have some boots on the ground, and be a part of it and cover it firsthand, it's very exciting.
It's got to be exciting knowing you're going to go to a bowl game this year. You can make can't make plans because you don't know where, but you're going
It's probably
somewhere.
a safe bet to say they'll be playing either in Florida or California somewhere in January, hopefully January.
And I'm hopeful for Indiana that is the case. But a lot of times, if you're an Indiana fan, you're like, well, I hope we're not going to Detroit, or I hope we're even going to Detroit. But it hasn't been that way in the last couple of years. But again, I think this team's going to be a little special. We had Tom Allen on earlier, but they've got a good offense this year. That the possibilities. Yeah, we won't know until we see them play, like I said. But I think it's going to be a very interesting season. We've got a new coach in the West, Nebraska. And Nebraska has been a team that came into the Big Ten, and they had all that tradition and Tom Osborne and back in the day, Oklahoma. But they haven't been the Nebraska of old since they joined the Big Ten yet. And the Big Ten is, and Kevin mentioned this earlier, they've been waiting for Nebraska to stand up and be Nebraska. Yep. That west side of the division or the conference needs somebody, because you got to hear the East, you got Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. And then you go to the West, it's just kind of like whose turn is it this
Wisconsin's
year?
Wisconsin's had a stronghold on it.
Hasn't done it. They got a new coach, Scott Frost, who did miraculous things down in Central Florida. It's crazy. What can he get done at Nebraska, and how soon can he get that done?
I think that's going to be a big burning question this year. And you've got the quarterback in Adrian Martinez, too, that can definitely do it. And it's just a matter of, I think, building around him and, being able to for them to be able to kind of take that next step. You want to talk about synonyms, Nebraska football, Indiana basketball. Tradition-rich programs waiting to come back. And, you're talking about two programs that are kind of in the same boat in that regard.
Absolutely. I can't thank Kevin Broadway from CNHI enough. I can't thank Elton Hayes enough. And also Indiana football coach Tom Allen. We're grateful for him for joining us today as well. Tomorrow we should have the players on for you and who knows what else. But we're here at the 49th Big Ten Football Media Days for the next 2 days. We'll be back tomorrow with more. We hope you enjoyed today. And for these guys, I appreciate it. I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.